Hey everybody. Pardon me. Have you ever sat down and you get those like stars all around you? It's kind of like, it's not a head rush, but they're almost they're like little shooting stars in your vision. It's weird. I just sat down and as I was starting the video, I got that for a second. I was like, whoa, weird. It's an odd sensation. It's different than like say being dizzy or something, but it goes away relatively quick. I guess some people have a condition where it can be life, it's some other issue in their health. But anyhow, how's everybody doing tonight? I wanted to just make a quick video to touch base with my subscribers and to talk about some important issues. Not about my life right now or in my life at all, really, but I should say some important issues we all face that once in a while I like to talk about them. And these are the ones that we're kind of all. And my apologies in advance if the audio is too low. I did put a little reflector to try to reflect it down, and I'm sitting a little closer than before. But I'm using my other camera, and I guess it doesn't pick up sound as well as the one I used to use, which those who have watched my channel for a while know about a year ago my camera broke, so I got a new body for the same camera so I could save my lens, and that one crapped out too, so I can't even see myself in it now, and it's acting weird. So I was looking the other day and I found this really nice documentary camcorder that I wanted to buy off Craigslist, but I was just couldn't bring myself to spend that kind of money. I think I talked them down to $800. I'm like, there's so many things I could buy with that. I mean, I only spent $1,000 on my car, and maybe that's one of the things that a great way to kind of segue into this idea that I wanted to talk about, which was that, why is it that we beat ourselves up at the same time we treat others almost with more respect and more support than our own selves? And I know this is something that I've seen in myself, but it's not just me, because I've read a lot of people who have written about it as well. So it turns out that this is something that's along the lines of maybe it's not altruism, but it's support for other people. So as egotistical as we can be as humans, we also do, I don't know, it's an interesting line to walk, because we like seeing people, you know, taken care of and doing well, but at the same time when people do too well, there's kind of a jealous nature that comes out with like when somebody's doing better than us. And anyhow, if we overcome that, we can just say, hey, we can be happy with, whatever people choose to do with their lives. And you start to realize that if a person wants to do something to be a millionaire, then they can do that. And if somebody wants to be an artist, then they can do that. Meanwhile, I'm stuck in the middle trying to figure out exactly who I am the whole time. My own life, I've been, trying to discover what I really think about the world around me and how I can process it best. And so many different ideas and conclusions I've come to pass and reformulate and kind of, ferment, because I've always believed that true knowledge comes from processing it within your mind as long as possible. But I also learned that there's a certain limit. It can spoil. So, ideas perhaps are like a fine wine, but you still have a shelf life. There's something to be said about, we have to make decisions about our life. So anyhow, point being, I tend to criticize myself a lot. And I put myself down for all the things that I know I need to get done in my life and that I think I should get done in my life. And I don't know, that's why I was thinking about that, because we're having some company tomorrow for something, a family member leaving and moving away. So we have, when you have guests over, you always have this idea that you want it to be somewhat clean. You want it to, at least maybe, I wouldn't say appear cleaner than usual, but that's usually the case. And so as I was doing that, I kept thinking, oh, this isn't good enough, this isn't good enough. And I thought, it's just one of those, I guess, metaphors for how, I don't know, we always feel like we're not good enough for getting things done well enough, at least I do. And I know that that's, not everyone's that way. A lot of people, maybe it's the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you think, you know, the worse you do on something, you know, the worse you suck at things, the better you think you're doing, because you're like, yeah, I'm a champion. But it's kind of a, I don't know, that's arrogant to say, but I don't really care because it's true. I've met so many stupid people that really think that they're, you know, God's gift to the world, you know, because of whatever it might be. And I'm like, you know, I just feel like humility could go such a long way. And so, my, you know, I know this will end up being kind of a ramble, but it's based on this notion that we treat others better than ourselves, and that we should respect ourselves more, that we should find out what it is that's bugging us. You know, we all know that if we get something done, you can accomplish some task that you wanted to get done, and you feel really good about it. And it might be something really simple. You know, even this year, I just wanted to get my garden dug and everything. And then when my back got messed up, I was like, oh shoot, you know, so I was, you know, in pain for the last month, and now I can finally get up and move around again, and that's great. And we're gonna go, you know, go out camping next week, and it'll be kind of the final camping trip of the year, you know. And we try to get out as much as possible. But when I go out into nature, when I go out into the woods, you know, it's funny because every time I go, I intend to make a bunch of videos, and I usually make a few, but most of the time that I'm out there alone, I'm just sitting and talking with nature. You know, it is communing with nature. And as I mentioned in a previous video, nature really has a language of its own. And I don't care how silly that sounds, because that's one of the major epiphanies I've had in my life, is that the things I feel really strongly about, I don't give a shit what other people think about it. Like, I'd rather say that I believe in, you know, I do hug trees, and that I do care about nature, and that I will avoid stepping on a bug when I can. But that I'm also not a pushover, you know, freak all out where I won't even swat a fly. You know, if a mosquito lands on me, he's getting his ass kicked. So that's how it works, you know. We all have our limits. We all draw lines. It's kind of like being vegan or vegetarian, you know. There's people who I'll let a little bit of dairy slip, or a little bit of this, and then there's other people who are complete purists. Um, Everybody has their limits on pretty much everything. So, at any rate, one of the things is that we have to put up with a lot of other people's bullshit in life. And that's bad enough by itself. You know, it's bad enough that we can't even understand those around us very well. And then we step back and we think of how misunderstood we are. Now think about it. You know, how many times have you just tried to express yourself and been like, oh God, that came out wrong. And especially if you're married, you know, you have a spouse or a significant other that you've lived with for a long time. A lot of the things you say may be taken out of context at first, but after a while you might actually start saying things that you ignore, that you both take out of context but never resolve. So you build up maybe a resentment because you think the other person said something horrible, or you know. But other times it's like, I don't know, but I don't want to get too off track with relationships, but when you get to know someone, you have to trust them, right? And you have to really be able to confide in that person. And so it's bad enough that we're trying to understand ourselves, and that's so difficult. When we're with someone who doesn't support us, or treats us like crap, or abuses us, it's really important to get away from that if possible. You know, abuse is something that I've seen a lot of times. It happens, you know, with children, with adults. It doesn't matter, men and women, boys and girls. And you know, it's always sickened to me, but I'm not going to go down that road and talk about that here. This is, you know, it's about, whenever I talk about these subjects, my whole point is self-empowerment. For people to realize some of these simple truths, that you really are in control of your destiny if, and, you know, I'm not talking about rainbows and unicorns here. You're in control of your destiny if you're open-minded enough to be flexible and realize you don't know your destiny. In other words, you'll be comfortable with whatever comes your way if you don't have expectations. And so many people have fucking expectations. So, if I criticize myself as much as I do, even though I have so many things that I do, I make jewelry, I make resin jewelry, I've got all kinds of hobbies that I do, and I love music, and making songs and videos and all kinds of different things that I'm really interested in. And sometimes I just beat myself up thinking I expect more of myself. And even when I'm doing well, I have imposter syndrome, which I'd never even heard of until years back when I was like, what's that? I watched this documentary. They're like, imposter syndrome is when a person, you know, um, doesn't feel like they're entitled to what they've earned, like they're making good money or something, doing something. And at one time when I was a carpenter, I was doing pretty well, and I felt like, oh, I don't deserve this, so I would always underbid myself. And still to this day, I do that. I don't make shit right now, but I need to get my business back on its toes. And it's one of those things where I need to reprogram and get my shit together. And I know that all of us have those similar problems when we're not. And I hate to bring it down to money because money is a component of it. But it's not money, it's the freedom of not having to worry about money. And there's a huge difference. You know, just earning enough to survive for some people is near impossible. And I know because we've taken bottles and cans back when we were younger, and you know, gone down with a calculator to Winco to try to buy the cheapest groceries, and make sure we didn't use a penny more than we had. And I know how that feels. And so, I feel for the people who are suffering more than me is the point. I have no room to complain and beat myself up. So why do I? And that leads me to understand human nature a little bit better, and realizing that after talking to people, many people feel that way. Many people feel the same awkwardness around others and with themselves around others, but overcome it, by even some of the greatest speakers, up on stage, they get stage fright. I still feel awkward after 8 years of making YouTube videos. This is somewhere around like YouTube video, almost 4,000. I erased hundreds of them years past that various subjects that were maybe controversial or that YouTube deleted, but yeah, I have about 3,600 right now, and that is a lot of videos for just me sitting here rambling. And so, once again, thank you to everybody who actually listens to my videos, and it's kind of hard for me to say thank you because it makes me feel like I'm self-congratulatory by saying, oh, well, thanks for watching my videos. I mean, I hope people get something out of at least some of the ones that I try to. My cat's trying. Come on, kitty. This is Callie, and she's about 15 now, and she lost her mom and her daughter last year, both cats, and plus our other dogs. So say hi, kitty, kitty. She loves to just rub on my beard, and so that's one other thing I wanted to talk about that I almost forgot, and I'm really glad I picked her up and remembered it. It was about empathy and how important it is to be able to feel your emotions. And I'm not in this one, will not get into the pharmaceutical aspect of how many pharmaceuticals dull your pain to some crazy extent, especially benzodiazepines, which can help you relax, but can also take away pretty much all your they motivate me for a while, but they also take away my will to, or I guess that emotional excitement about certain things. Opiates do the same thing. Several different antidepressants and anxiolytics can cause you to feel very dull. And even natural substances, kratom, cannabis, they can also dull your senses if you use too much, and it's all about the dosage. And I say that because a lot of the times we beat ourselves up over consuming a substance. You're told to feel like an addict because you smoke pot or because you take kratom, and those are the ones that a couple of the ones that I've always had this kind of inner battle about. And I've realized when you're functioning, you don't feel like you're high. I mean, in fact, I took kratom earlier, and I was thinking, wow, some people actually think that kratom's like heroin. There's absolutely no feeling like heroin, and it's just so sad that people associate these substances with one another. But I don't want to go too much into that either. But that you shouldn't feel guilty if you're using a substance for maybe artistic purposes, or to inspire you, or even just to relax. it's all about the dose. And one thing I've learned is, I don't know if it was Epicurus that says, you know, the poison is in the dose, and that pretty much any plant has some medical benefit if it's taken properly. Of course, that's not true. Not every plant, some will kill you. I mean, you can drink hemlock and die if you want, but I don't recommend it. But it is fascinating that some of the most mind-altering plants tend to come from areas where they're nearby humans, and there's a lot of different variety of cultivars or varieties to get of the plants. And just like many mushrooms grow right along the side of trails and paths. So anyhow, those are just some final thoughts. I will be talking to you all soon. I'm heading out camping in a couple days, so y'all have a wonderful day. Take care now. Say bye, Callie.